Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and we are here for our Thursday, April 15th, Westchester Coronavirus Update. I'm joined by our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins, and we try to provide this update twice a week at 2 o'clock on each day to give you an idea of where we are in the impact of the coronavirus outbreak here in Westchester County. We've been doing this now since March of 2020. And we'll continue to do it twice a week as we see it going forward. If there are any particular updates, anything that's a new breaking issue of a high magnitude, we'll certainly come back in between that period of time, but it gives you an idea of how we start the week on Monday and as we end the week on Thursday. The numbers for today are up on the New York State Tracker, and they're good numbers to show progress here in Westchester County. We have, as of today, 4,565 active cases, and that number now has started to drop after a couple of weeks of static circumstances. A week ago today, we were at 5,712 cases, so that's a drop of 1,200 cases in the week, and that's determined by how many people have tested positive for coronavirus in the last 2 weeks. And that number dropping down, again, we mentioned 3 months ago in January, the number was at the highest it was for the second sort of wave of outbreak here in Westchester County. There are different things happening in different parts of the nation, so when you watch the national news, you'll hear about Michigan and you'll hear about Texas and Florida and other places. But here in our backyard in Westchester County, we've had two basic rounds of this very early in the beginning in March and April of last year, and then this year in the December-January timeframe, right around the holidays. So we hit a secondary peak of 11,500 cases in January. Now it's 3 months since that period of time, and we've been dropping now in the last week or so. We're down to 4,500 cases. What's also encouraging is we are now under 200 hospitalizations. At the current time, the most recent number we have is 2 days ago, 194 hospitalized individuals for COVID. That number a week ago was just above 200 at 209. 2 weeks ago, that number was 241 individuals, and 3 weeks ago, 274 individuals were hospitalized. So over the course of the last 3 weeks, we've gone from 274 people hospitalized down to 194 people hospitalized. That's a good drop, and we hope that continues to happen. It has been said that the more people that are vaccinated, the less severe the illness is, should they get it. And less severe would mean less likely to be hospitalized and, of course, less likely to lose their life. And so we're very encouraged that the hospitalization numbers, which have been going down, have given us a sense that maybe there is the progress being made based on the vaccinations that we hope is the case as we open up the society a little bit more. For fatality purposes, the last number we have is 2,236 individuals who have passed away. That's 17 individuals over the last week. Every individual story is always very personal and very emotional. We look to see a lower rate of fatalities till we get to zeros, which we did have in the summer of last year, and we hope to return to that again. We're encouraged because the greater vaccination rate and more activities moving outdoors give us hope that we'll have less likelihood of the spread of the virus, less likely hospitalizations, and less likely fatalities. But the numbers for today are encouraging, and they continue to move in the right direction. And if we see this kind of diminution over the next few months, that could give us a very much different and better summer this year than we had last year. Already, I think we see certain things are coming back in the springtime that we did not have last year. And I think in our updates next week, we're going to make some specific announcement dates about when we intend to officially open Playland, officially open our pools and our beaches so that you can put it on your calendar and have something to shoot for. We're about 2 months out from the opening of those activities, and we figure next week we'll make some formal announcements and put those issues on the docket. The second half of our report now is always about vaccination statistics. Through yesterday, the 14th of April, we had issued 188,000 vaccines at the county center. That is the largest facility that vaccinates in the county that's been open since January. We can process over 2,000 people a day now. Started out at 1,000 people a day, and we were pleased with that number when we started. And now that we're up approaching 200,000 at the county center alone, that is a very positive sign. Our two county clinics, which include downtown White Plains, our normal health clinic, as well as the gymnasium at the community college. Together, they've done 40,000 vaccinations, and the Yonkers Armory, which is a significant-sized facility on North Broadway in Yonkers, just north of the heart of Yonkers, they've vaccinated 46,000 vaccinations. They've issued 46,236 63 vaccinations over the course of their time being open, and they're open just a shade over a month. So the total number of vaccinations given is 275,446. And we keep in mind the Pfizer and the Moderna virus are two-shot vaccinations. This is a total number of vaccinations. So the actual number of people vaccinated is in a bit of a different situation when we're only talking about the four major facilities. Many people have been vaccinated at the local pharmacies, some number of them at the various satellite pop-up clinics that have happened all around the county. Some of those are sponsored by the state, some of them are sponsored by the county, and some of the local pharmacies are now contracting with local entities in their community to issue their pharmacy vaccinations at a local facility. So it has the effect of being a pop-up in their localities as well. We've seen that around the county. So overall, we have almost 30% of Westchester County people having completed their vaccination series, meaning two shots if it's Pfizer or Moderna, and the J&J shots that have been given out already, one shot. That's 292,363 people have completed their vaccination in the county on the basis of 1 million people. That's 29.2%. We're approaching 30% completed. If you give the aggregate total for people who've had at least one vaccine dose and they're awaiting the second dose, that number now goes up to 431,368 individuals, and that's a significant number. We're approaching the 500,000 mark, which would be half of the population. The last census count for Westchester, just so we have the statistics right, is 967,612 people. We operate at a base of 1 million people. When the new census comes out, we'll see how close we are to 1 million. If we've exceeded 1 million, it makes the math just a shade easier as well. But the bottom line is we're very encouraged by the amount of vaccinations that are happening, and we are pacing ahead of New York State in our vaccination numbers, and we're ahead of a number of other parts of our neighboring communities and counties. So Westchester's doing pretty well on the vaccination front. Now, as you've no doubt seen in the news for the last not quite a full week, Westchester County, like many other entities, has taken a pause on issuing the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccines. They are the one-shot vaccinations that were announced by the FDA about 2 months ago. They came on the scene after Pfizer and Moderna, and there have been 6 reported cases of blood clotting for people within a certain demographic, women between the ages of 18 and 48. One of those 6 individuals had suffered death, but that's out of over 6 million doses administered, so more than a 1 in a million situation that has happened. But nonetheless, there is a reason to stop, look, understand exactly what's happened. We're not sure, as a medical science community, that the J&J vaccine is the cause for these blood clots, but that is what's being investigated now. While that is happening, we are holding on a pause on issuance of J&J vaccinations. The concern that we have, obviously, is that the more vaccines we get that we can appropriately give out, the better off we are, the faster we get toward as full a vaccination as we can get. And the Johnson & Johnson one-shot vaccination was logistically very helpful to us. We used it exclusively for homebound seniors, people who can't leave the house. Much easier if we send out a team of people to vaccinate. They can go in, issue one shot, and then that's it. When you have to do the 2 shots, there is that returns factor, which makes it more difficult, and time factor involved in reaching everybody twice in an in-home situation. It also made it easier for us in these satellite locations because you have to set up a certain physical structure for these, and the check-in tables and all of the various areas that you have to work through. And if you're doing a 2-shot vaccine, you set them up, break it down, and then 3 weeks later, you set it up again, and you issue the second shots. It's only when they get both doses that they can be considered fully vaccinated. So you have to plan on spending the time, the money, the manpower effort to do it twice. If you can do it once, then that's that much easier, and of course, that is how we used our J&J allocation. But until we get an all-clear signal, if we do get that, a full green light from the federal government, we are not issuing J&J vaccines. We understand that we have sufficient Pfizer and Moderna in our inventory to be able to satisfy all the appointments that have been made up to now. And as we go forward and making additional appointments, we will only make appointments for those individuals when we know that we've got the supply that can satisfy the commitment that we've made in appointments. We have not had to do any big rearrangement of our scheduling because of the Johnson & Johnson. And we'll await the CDC and the FDA and their action. But the complications that exist in J&J have not been seen in either Pfizer or Moderna. We know there's a certain amount of vaccine hesitancy out there. A lot of folks who don't know any more science than I do draw generic judgments about whether or not they think something is safe or not, and there's always a fear factor, and that exists. And we can't just wave it away. But the bottom line is that as it stands right now, we're still issuing Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. We've had no indication that there's any reason not to do that. I've taken my 2 Moderna shots now for a while, and I feel no ill effects from it, so hopefully that'll be the case for the vast majority of us. There is still an opportunity for people to get vaccines, and it is easier now than it was at the beginning of this. Ken and I and the rest of our team went through a lot of difficulty in the first few weeks, people wanting vaccines. The demand was so great and the supply so limited that we were really dealing with the frustration that people had not being able to get a vaccine. Now it appears that the quantity of vaccines that are here seem to be approaching the point at which we satisfy the demand for those who want it. We've opened up vaccination, the royal we, it's been done by the state, last week to 16 and older, and the week prior to that to 30 and older. So now it's universal eligibility. All the eligibility questions have disappeared, and if you want a vaccine, you can get a vaccine. And that has coincided with the increase in the number of vaccines available. So all of that is a bit of the good news. Tonight, we're going to hold a town hall here on Facebook. And I'm going to have the opportunity to speak with our County Health Commissioner, Dr. Charlita Amler, the Mayor of White Plains, Tom Roach, Office for People with Disabilities, Evan Latimer, and our Commissioner of the Department of Community Mental Health, Michael Orth. And we're going to be talking about some of the issues that involve COVID with the disabled community, people who suffer a variety of disabilities. And we hope that that will be an interesting conversation. You can tune in at 6 o'clock. It'll be 1 hour in duration. If you have any questions, you can email communications@westchestergov.com. Or when we get on Facebook tonight at 6 o'clock, you can post it in the comments section. And as those comments come out, we'll be able to be a bit helpful for you. Also, we just want to mention that we have a satellite location today and tomorrow at the Portchester Senior Center. This is a county-sponsored pop-up, as they're known. You can access an appointment by dialing 939-4975. That's the Portchester Senior Center. We've been working in the Portchester community and in other communities of color to try to help folks who are poor, but have had difficulty getting vaccination shots, try to get them vaccinated and move us on. This is the first dose to be administered for people at this particular pop-up, and there's some other ones that will be happening over the weekends. We'll try to post as much information as we can on our website, westchestergov.com, that will help you with that information. Our communications department has put together a Spanish language video which is designed to help inform those for whom Spanish is their first language to overcome the hesitancy and the sort of resistance to having vaccinations that come within certain communities, and some of that being for people for whom Spanish is their primary language, to be communicated in a language that they're most comfortable with and that is persuasive, to help them understand that these vaccines are safe, that these vaccines are necessary, and to overcome that hesitancy. So the last video was shot at the Portchester Senior Center, where we have the pop-up today. You'll hear from resident Maria Elena Hernandez, who received her vaccine after she had contracted COVID-19, and she lost her father to the very same virus. She tells a poignant story about being unable to say goodbye to her father. We know all of those that we've lost during the COVID crisis. We have been unable to properly grieve for them. We can't have contact with them in the hospital because of the contagious level of the disease. We have not had lately some, but for almost all of last year, no legitimate services for the departing, whether it's the tradition of a wake or Shiva call, and then of course memorial services and actual funerals and burials. All of those were very changed last year. And when you're saying goodbye to a loved one, someone that you've been with for years as a friend, a member of the family, it's impossible to imagine at that last moment in life that you can't have, communication and contact with them. You can't hold their hand, touch them, look at their eyes, say that final word that means so much to us, to the people that we love. But we have lost all of that. The COVID-19 virus has taken that away from us. And as it has, it's important for us to understand that is why we take the vaccine, and that is why we push back and fight back to try to make everybody healthy. So this video, which is in Spanish, is targeted for the community in Westchester County for whom this is the language that they're most comfortable in, and to try to get a message to convince them to take the vaccine. Let's take a look at that video now, if you would.
Hay muchos que no quieren vacunarse, dicen que no sirve, que no es bueno, pero yo sé que sí, que es algo que nos va a ayudar a todos para estar mucho mejor en ese momento que es tan difícil para toda la humanidad, no nada más para uno, para todos. Mi papá falleció por el COVID, perder la familia cuando se está tan lejos, porque mi papá, soy mexicana y no pude ir a ver a mi padre ahora que falleció. Es muy duro. Yo les digo a todos que se vacunen porque no es fácil. A mí me dio el virus. Hay momentos en que uno piensa que no va a sobrevivir, pero gracias a Dios pues yo estoy aquí. Se vacunen porque es muy importante cuidarnos todos y protegernos para que todo esto esté mucho mejor ahora.
Our communications team. You may remember Lisa from her tenure on News 12, and also John Borst. And the work that they did was not only professional but loving, as it takes into account the human side of what we face. Next, I'd like our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins, to update us on the New York Excelsior Pass program. Ken?
Thanks, George. As County Executive has pointed out, and as things have started to open up, many people are getting vaccinated. As the numbers were coming out, 44.6% of Westchester residents have had at least one shot. But the Excelsior Pass, Governor Cuomo announced a few weeks ago, is actually extremely helpful for all of our folks to get engaged, involved, and have that vaccination pass with them at all times. One of the really interesting things about it is that it gives you the opportunity, if you have somehow lost your vaccination card, you would be able to go online on a smartphone. So Senator Schumer won't be able to do this on his flip phone, but certainly on everyone's smartphone, whether that is an Android device or an iPhone or an iPad or even another Google device that you have from a tablet, you'll be able to download the app by going to the website that we are having on the screen right now, the COVID-19 website, excelsiorpass.com. What it does is ask you a few simple questions. First, your birthday. It'll ask you what day that you took the vaccine, and it gives you a few different choices. So it is actually going against the state website that does the vaccination, the same one that we run the reports from that the county executive points out. It goes against that. It gives a few different dates. It gives you a few different locations, and certainly your birthday and your name. And sometimes, if it doesn't come back, you are instructed to go back to the place that administered the shots to you, the vaccine to you, to be able to go backwards, because sometimes there's little things like typos and misspellings. But for the most part, it is extremely helpful. You'll be able to get that, and whether you go to a venue like the Knicks, or as the county executive might go to a Mets game or to a Yankees game or anything like that, or you're participating in some of the theater functions that are starting to open up, it's a requirement for many of those times to prove that you're vaccinated. So the Excelsior Pass is a great way to do that. It was designed in combination with New York State and IBM. And again, it is something that is very, very helpful, very easy to use. And for those folks that might be technology challenged, make sure that you get one of those young folks that are sitting homes from their remote learning locations to help out, and make sure that to be able to show that your vaccinations happen. One of the other things that has happened with that is it helps people to remember that it's not the day you get that second vaccination if you have Pfizer or Moderna, or the Johnson & Johnson one shot, it's 2 weeks after that. So the app actually keeps track and knows whether or not you tried to do this or tried to achieve the pass on your exact date of 2 weeks or is after. So it's 2 full weeks. And get that particular app. It's very helpful when you have to go around to those various locations and prove that you've been vaccinated. Thanks a lot, George.
Thank you very much, Ken Jenkins, Deputy County Executive. Before we go to questions, just want to highlight that tonight again at 6 o'clock, we'll have the town hall meeting. That will be including Dr. Amler, Michael Orth, Evan Latimer, and Mayor Tom Roach. So do tune in at 6 o'clock for that. Our next update will be next Monday at 2 o'clock, and obviously we hope to continue to see improvement in the numbers. We are encouraged by what we've seen. Catherine Chaffee tells me there are no media questions for us, so if there are folks in the media that are tracking this, you're welcome to give us a call at 995-2932 if there's anything you want to follow up on, and we'll be happy to try to answer and address those. And of course, wherever there is a major breaking bit of information, we will then come back on to be available to try to answer those questions as well. Thank you for watching. I'm George Latimer, County Executive. Have a good day, a good weekend. Stay safe, and we'll see you on tonight's broadcast, and then we'll see you on Monday.